Yes, very
Okay.
nice welcome to all of you. To all of you to this Melton share. Um, Most of you, well, except Sabrish, know Mai, so I'm not gonna do much of an introduction. Mai is a senior fellow from Temuco, and she's living in Temuco. The what she's going to talk about, and you've seen that in the announcement. Mai has spent 5 months at the Arava Institute for Environmental Studies in Israel, and she will present to you her experiences there, but also will talk about what she has done with that experience, and how she has used her experience at the Arava Institute after she got back to Temuco uh, to uh, to start new projects there and then make new connections between the researchers and scientists in Israel and local communities in Temuco. Mai, I'm going to uh, hand over the presentation to you. um, I'm making you the presenter so you can show your screen to make sure that we also have the Prezi um, in the recording of this session.
Mhm.
And while Mai is starting to show her screen, a little bit to the procedures. We're a very small group. In that small group, I think if you have questions, you can choose to ask Mai directly, but you can also use the chat function, and I will monitor the chat. If you have some questions, some comments, you can also type them in the chat, and I will then, during the presentation at convenient points, interrupt Mai and make sure that, well, basically ask her to talk about these questions. Mai, we can see your screen. I think the way it shows is nice. So please go
Mhm.
ahead. I'm really curious what you have to tell about your experience at Arava.
Okay. Well, thank you very much, Marcus, for the introduction. And that's true. Everything you say is true. I was in Israel, and the Malta Foundation helped me, um, well, for the for the beginning to know this program and to support my stay there and support my internship at the Arava Institute for Environmental Studies. So I am happy to share the experience of being there, and I know that it's these are topics like the peace and peace building and the environment, the physical environment is something that's interesting for many of the fellows. So I think that it's also valuable to share a little bit of my experience. Okay. Um, so this is all my thoughts, I guess, and my experience. So I just really want to emphasize that. Yeah. Okay. So, peace in action, forging personal meaning in the social and physical environment. Let's go. So I have two objectives for this little Melton share. One is to share about my experience in the Arava Institute for Environmental Studies, to talk a little bit about the academic aspect, and also about the peace building and environmental leadership seminar. That's a program that they use for peace building. That's one. And the other is to understand the role of peace-related concepts in the environment. Okay. And yes. Um, so let's go. First, I am going to start with the second thing. I'm going to start defining some of these concepts because these concepts are very important throughout all the experience, all of this experience. Okay, so I'm gonna start with peace, of course. Okay, that X is not supposed to be there, but yeah. Okay, so I looked up in Google about the images of peace, um, and all of like many similar things like that appear, like a dove and some symbols and things like that. And it is very different from other concepts. The concepts that I'm going to be defining are four. Um, First is peace, and then war. And peace and war were very different in the images that I got. And war was more realistic. You're going to see soon. In peace, I only got these symbols, this dove and these hands and things like that, because we all have like an idea of peace, but it's not very tangible. I thought that was very interesting. The definition of peace in a dictionary talks about a state of tranquility or quiet. It's talk about freedom from civil disturbance or freedom from oppressive thoughts or disquieting emotions, and harmony in personal relations or in other things as well. Harmony. This concept. Okay, so when we are going to be talking about peace, we're going to be relating it to those words supposedly. The UN as an organization officially works with a definition of peace that is the lack of interstate war, which is a very negative definition because it stems from the fact of a lack of something for it to appear. And this tells us a lot also about the ambiguity and the diversity of definitions of peace. It is not something tangible. It's something that we just want to, we hope to grab, and it is something. This is something that we have taught since we're little in religion and in our cultures so much, but we don't think about it. That we don't think about it too much, and that's why it's sometimes hard to grab it or to make it, to create it ourselves. Well, okay, the other concept is war, because it talks directly, the directly opposite of peace, supposedly. So the images that we got here now on Google were more realistic, were something that were more tangible, visible, more close to reality. And that was very interesting, that for peace, that is something that we're supposed to, we're fighting for, something like that. There's not a real portray of this peace. I thought that was interesting. Okay. And the definition of war now is a struggle or competition between opposing forces. And I also saw trauma and stress. I took those words as well, because war only talked about a struggle or competition, whereas in the definition of peace before, also it talked about a lack of distress or a lack of disruption, which is the definition of trauma. It's as a distress, as disruption, it's shock, it's a wound, and it talks about injury to the body or emotional wound. So we are talking about different kinds of stresses into an organism. Basically, we're talking about an organism, a body, or it could be a city if we're talking about war. It could be an ecosystem if we're talking about a species dying. How do you being exterminated, or I don't know. I know that there's the word, but okay. And also stress, which is pressure or tension exerted on a material or object. Okay? And now we're going to go into another concept, the third concept that is very important in all this dynamic, all my experience in Israel is resilience. Okay? Because resilience comes from physical, from engineering point of view, so it's the stress in a certain material. And it is a concept that comes from many different areas. Basically, the question that we make ourselves to understand resilience is how much can you change without losing your identity? And this is for a person. This can be for a tree that we can see there. That there was a river there, and the tree making everything it can to keep living. It's adapting. It's changing its shape, but it's still a tree, although it's different from other trees that we commonly see. So the definition here, a simple definition would be that the power is the power of ability to return to the original form, position after being bent, compressed, or stretched. Talks about elasticity. That's a good word to remember. Ability, it's also the ability to recover readily from illness, depression, adversity, or the like. Okay? So all of this time we're talking about organisms. We're talking about it's a human. We're talking about a tree, an ecosystem, a city, different things. Okay, an animal. And oh, I have some comments. Hopefully. Okay, hopefully this is because peace is or should be a normal state, and peaceful situations just look like normal life. I know. Yes, that's a very good comment, because sometimes when you don't have an opposing force, an opposing stress or trauma or war, you are not able to stretch a lot, and you don't recognize peace because you don't have another force. But we can go we can go through this more later. Okay, so this is a nice quote that we can make a stop here from Bruce Lee. And it says, "Notice that the stiffest tree is most easily cracked, while the bamboo or willow survives by bending with the wind." He was all about resilience. He was all about adapting, and because adapting is not solely return to your original shape, but also gives you other tools to fight next traumas, next wars or stress, next adversity. Okay, so this oh, I think that it's okay. Well, yeah. So here, we were touching on the concepts of war, on peace, and resilience, right? All of the time, it's going to be a game between all these three of the peaceful forces or war forces, trauma, and the ability of the organism for adapting to this, the resilience to it, their elasticity. Okay, so what we want to do in adversity, in difficult situations, is to build a better capacity for resilience. Basically, we want to build peace. We want to strengthen the capacity for peace, the ability for organisms to resist the adversity. Okay, so I googled again the peace building, and again all of this is just very like symbols, and you know, we want to protect this dog that we don't know what it is, we don't know what it means, but it's a nice dog, so we want to build. And I think that it's funny because it is so utopic. It just tells you instantly about that this, like, how can you achieve something that you don't know, actually you cannot grasp really. So peace building, a definition that there is about peace building. It's interventions designed to prevent the start or resumption of violent conflict by creating sustainable peace. Basically, peace building reflects in activities that address the root causes or potential causes of violence, and they have the objective of a stabilized society, and bring back to this peace concept. Okay. Okay. So those are the four concepts that I wanted to talk first before beginning to talk about the Arava Institute. Okay. And okay. So this peace building should be done by everyone. We're talking now. It's more tangible. That is just activities to address a root, so it has to be something specific for a community, because every community is a totally different organism that is facing different adversities and specific for those communities. So there needs to be collaboration for that as well. Okay. So this was my first. So this was the environment that I was faced every day for 5 months, and it was totally foreign to wherever I had lived or traveled before, and so it was a very different experience for my body that didn't know how to deal with 48 Celsius degrees of heat, but as my body also is a self-organizing organism, I could deal with the temperature. I didn't have to do anything really, but just wait and be patient a little bit, and my temperature started to adapt. So that's something beautiful there. So okay, the Arava Institute for Environmental Studies. What do they do? They bring students together from Jordan, from Israel, from Palestine, from Europe, and from America, and from all other parts of the world, to study the environment as a shared goal, to have the environment as a shared goal. And the students at the Arava Institute, they learn the essential skills required for becoming future environmental leaders. There are two kinds of opportunities at the Arava Institute. One is to be a student, and there you can learn about the different range of environmental issues from a transboundary perspective and interdisciplinary perspective. they have a study abroad semester program because they're linked with a university there, the Ben Gurion University, and so you can get credits for that. Also, they have a master's program. That's for our students. If you are an intern, and this is very interesting for anyone in the foundation as well, because you have the opportunity to contribute to research there, or to tasks to projects inside of the organization, and also conduct research if you want, or in the intern's academic or professional field of choice. So they have a large variety of resources and human resources. The best researchers on social issues related with peace building, anthropology, sociology, and of course ecology and water management and and, and in algae and different renewable energies are also in this institute. So it's an incredible opportunity, really. Yes, so they have different research centers. So if you are an intern, for example, you could be in the Center for Renewable Energy and Energy Conservation, or the Center for Transboundary Water Management. These centers have different projects inside of them, dealing with photovoltaic panels, or developing prototypes for improving technologies. It is always about making it simpler and less and more cost effective for small communities. That's also very interesting. And for example, the first three centers, the two centers and the Sustainable Development Center have a program that uses desalination of water for communities, for families in Gaza. So it is a collaborative project, and that they develop a prototype for under $2,000 for desalinating water for families, and so we're talking about things that are feasible to do, and that it can that are making a difference in the grassroots level. Okay, so they have a Center for Sustainable Agriculture. In this also center, they cultivate the plants of the region, indigenous of the region, and they have systems of gray water for irrigation, and they play with that. It's incredible what you can do in a community in the middle of the desert with just a little bit of water. They have date farms, and they cultivate most of their edible plants. It's incredible also what they do there. They have a project with archaeology, because they sprouted some seeds that were 2,000 years old, and now those plants sprouted, and so it's a continuous research of the scientists there. The Center for Hyper-Arid Socioecology deals with all of the fauna there. There's a very big ecosystem there. Well, many animals and birds, and even though it's desert, and it's fascinating as well. And of course, they have a research and visitors park for for the for the visitors. They always have visits from embassies and from the supporters as well, mostly Americans. And yeah, in the Center for Sustainable Development also, it's a very important program that that's called Mushaf Program. That's in collaboration with the Israeli Agency for Collaboration, International Collaboration, and they have a training for people from more than 16 countries. They had a Mushaf course when I was there as well, and I could attend. And okay, so here they have some projects on water desalination, and these are the algae solar plants. The algae field. I'm sorry. Yes, the algae field. And okay, so I want also to tell you a little bit about the life in a kibbutz, which is a community in Israel. And there in the top picture you can see the kibbutz. In there supposedly live around 400 people. I spent 5 months there. It is all a gated community, as you can see in the other picture below. And so you have hours where you can go out or not, but actually you cannot just go out. You don't have a purpose because it's just desert. And it's a very, very interesting life there. The families came to settle there in the desert, and it is completely different from the life in the city. They don't use money. They don't use currency. Everything is of everyone. Like everybody knew that a tree, like 1/18 of a tree, was theirs, and so everything had to be taken care of too. And it was beautiful, in a way, because they decided to be there. They chose to be there, and I think that one of the best things about this kibbutz in particular is the Arava Institute, that brings a little bit of life and actually allows the people in the kibbutz to be useful for the outside community, and not only be living in the desert, secluded, but actually share with others their lifestyle, and also in advanced research on the extreme conditions that they live. Okay, so there were a lot of activities like this for building community. There were a lot of young people. Those pink mountains in the back is Jordan already. We were between Jordan and Egypt, very close by, very, very close by. Okay, and so now this is a very important part of the program. This institute is mainly for environmental studies. It's solely for environmental studies, but as they wanted to create a collaboration, they wanted to create collaboration, they needed a peace building program. And this was not thought at the beginning, so it just appeared as a need for a program. We're talking about around 40 students that are living together for 5 months or more, or a year, sometimes more, studying together, living together, and they have different backgrounds. They have different stories. They're from the same area, but they're from Jordan and Palestine and Israel, and they're Arabs and Jewish and atheists and Buddhists, and they're living all together, and they asking them just to have a collaboration for nature, and sometimes it's not enough. So that's why the Peace Building and Environmental Leadership Seminar appeared. And PELT is a facilitated forum where students develop leadership skills and express their views on race, religion, culture, identity, and the political situation in the region. Keep in mind that we are in a very conflicted area, in the most publicized conflict, and so there are a lot of views and there are a lot of emotions. This was led by two professors, two psychologists, and one of them had been working with the Peace Building Program for 15 years, and so they knew how to do this. But it was remarkable, really. I will read the week what we did, and then I will tell you a little bit about their style of methodology for doing all of this. So in some weeks, the first week we had a life story workshop with Elad Vahana. If you please, if you see these names here, and you Google them, you will see that they all have pages, and they have an incredible history, and they're showcased in the news, and like we had very great people giving us like lectures here. For example, Elad Vahana was a former soldier from the IDF, the Israeli Defense Forces, that had post-traumatic stress disorder, and for that, he, as a way of healing, he created this peace project where he bases everything in life storytelling. So we had some workshops in that, workshops in that area. We had creative and critical thinking for conflict management. We had group reflections. And keep in mind that these sessions are 3 hours long, and so it was incredibly tiring. Sometimes you were so drained after one session, and because of all of the stories that you heard, not only of the speakers but of your own classmates. Dual narratives with Dr. Shoshana Steinberg, that she talked about. She made us realize how different the stories that each side had grown up with, and that is fueled by the educational systems in Israel and in Arab countries. So right there you have, I think, incredible difference. Compassionate listening workshop. All of this was done with experts. We had personal narratives of massive social trauma with Dr. Julia Shatling, and also that those workshops were incredible, where you see how a same experience can be interpreted different by people from the same side. How many people are going to react with violence, wanting to kill the other person, and others are going to be diminished in their identity so much that they're not going to be able to live, feel the uh, a joy for living or a meaning for living, um, or others are able to manage this. And I don't know if you're thinking the same of something that we talked about, but this resilience. We talk about different levels of resilience of people. We had an Holocaust Memorial Day. We deal also with art here, and so all of these activities that we had were for building community and um, for working and working in strengthening our resilience, and putting ourselves in different situations in order for us to get math there in a safe environment. Like, I cannot tell you how many people, most of the people hated the facilitator, but they hated her. Um, in because it was like, how can you make us do that? How can you provoke these situations? And sometimes it was questionable. The way of how to push people in such difficult ways, but um, but this is how we are building. This is the only way we can build resilience, really, and have this this new tools for facing new adversities and maybe worse adversities. It's incredible to understand it like that. But yeah, that's resilience. Okay, so out of all of these, some outcomes that I had in Israel, yes, Mark said, no one said that peace building is easy. No, it's not. And so okay, so outcomes in Israel. I had an event that I presented at the GCC that was called Art Knows No Borders, where we had artists, Israeli artists, um, and from the kibbutz too, present their work, and we had talks with the community about cultural diplomacy and the importance of art for peace building and mutual understanding. Um, Also, I just cannot help but um, do like sketches all the time. So this is a work in progress that I'm doing. When I'm ready, I will show you. But um, and I will respond to questions in a little bit. And so there are a lot of conversations that I had that sometimes I cannot put in words. I am never good with words, but I could do some art. And for example, this sculpture that I did it in the desert. Oh, let's not go. Maybe this one. No. Okay. So this is a sculpture I did outside of the kibbutz, and it's called the altar. Because every time that I went, that I felt drained for the talks and for being there, actually, like in a bubble, I would go to the desert, and I started to do this sculpture with rocks, and I understood more and more as the semester passed that peace begins really in yourselves, like with this divine concept of peace, like as if I was building an altar for peace, and thinking of how to love others there, or how to be peaceful with others there, with myself, because the conditions are never going to be good or optimal for being peaceful for with someone. You just have to decide. It's a personal decision, and it is very difficult, really. But that's one outcome. That's one of my conclusions. Very personal, anyhow. Okay. And the outcomes in Chile that I haven't been much here in Chile, only a couple of months, 3 months. But I have been able to work with the Mapuche community to share the information with leaders of the project Oragniwa, that they work in a Mapuche community near Temuco. This is another community. And I shared information with them about the technologies and about the projects that they were doing. They are doing many projects related with permaculture in their own community. So it's been wonderful to support their activities. I am supporting especially a project with a biodigester at the Mayor University in Temuco, and in the same community. And it is funny because I am going to work with these students and educating house by house, door by door of the community, and in teaching about recycling. They're going to be focused on recycling, and I'm going to be focused on biodigester and the biodigester and how biomass works. And I think that that's incredible, because really, if I wouldn't have gone to Israel, I wouldn't have had the confidence to do it. Not at all. But it makes sense. It just makes sense to learn about all of this for having a more peaceful relation also with our environment. So everything just makes sense. And also I help them collaborating. I collaborated with them because I contact an expert of photovoltaic panels, which is a project that they are going to they're working on now, and they want to implement soon. So yes, so those are the outcomes that I have in Chile, but I know that there will be more. I have this thing that if I have so much information that I want to put it in capable hands. I know that my hands are not as capable as others, so I need to put them in where it needs to go, you know. So I will find ways to do it. Okay. Oh, so no. Bear with me. Okay, so we're coming to the end now, and so I just wanted to come back again to the topic of resilience, and this is a graph that shows the stress that was that generated in me this whole experience of traveling to Israel, to go into a community, to study something that was outside of my comfort zone, or not directly related with my comfort zone, and so all of this, the picture there demonstrate the stress right there, but also the possibilities for growth, and how I am trying to make this a resilient situation, a situation for growth, rather than a situation for deformation or a situation for trauma. And so my conclusion with this is that every experience that you make, I think that's why traveling and experiences is so meaningful for us, because it represents a stress, a little trauma, and that is in a safe environment. I'm extremely thankful for the Melton Foundation for allowing us that opportunity to stretch our resilience, to make us more elastic for meeting new people, for talking with people that are not in our fields of study, for trying new foods, and to be respectful with others. And that is building our resilience. And I think that now we only need to be conscious of that, and put this resilient abilities to action, and actually create peace, and start building peace with our small activities in our places. So yes, so that's all I think. And oh no. And thank you. Yes, that's me. And on the growth graph. Yes. All very technical. Okay, so now we can address some of the questions that you had.
Yeah. Thank you, Mai. Thank you very much for sharing these experiences with all of us, for showing us how the Arava Institute, which is about building peace around common problem, and especially in that part, we've seen the image, what it looks like in the Negev desert in southern Israel. It is a very challenging environment, and the environment is a very strong problem for everyone who lives there. But even in that situation, you impressed on us how difficult it is to overcome all that conflict that is present in every situation in that part of the world. How difficult it is, and how hard they have to work in those peace building seminars to get to that point, and and overcome their own perspectives and their own hurt and loss, and their war experiences. Thank you very much for sharing that. We already had one question in the chat, and that was, I think, prompted by your remark about the Holocaust Memorial Day. Sabrish asking how touchy the topic of Holocaust is in Israel. What are your experiences from living in the kibbutz in the Arava Institute?
It is very touchy. Yes, it is very touchy, and we made a trip, all of the students, to Yad Vashem, which is the Holocaust Memorial in Jerusalem. That is a huge memorial with all the information of the Holocaust. We were there a whole morning, with separated into groups, being guided by a guide, and by an expert on the Holocaust. We didn't even go in all of the chambers and all of the exhibits. And after that, we had a reunion. We had a meeting to reflect on all that we have lived, which was a lot, because it is the biggest museum of Holocaust in the world. So it is incredible. It's incredible, the memorial. And in that conversation, the afterwards conversation, we had one comment saying how impactful it was. I think that it was from an American, a Jewish American, because you always, I mean, you're never going to have a Palestinian or a Jew or an Israeli comment first. That usually never happen. So usually an American Jew or me were the ones that were beginning the conversation, just as a, you know, breaking the ice, because the people that weren't from the the place, that weren't born in the area, didn't have a, like, they had a different attachment. That's the real thing. And so the second comment was a Palestinian, and I don't remember exactly what he said, but was about talking about Nakba immediately. And then an Israeli girl just stand up and say, "How can you show more respect? We're talking about Nakba, we're talking about the occupation every time. This is the one day that we have, and for like, I'm not being sorry, but for reflecting on what happened to us, and you are just talking right back, like taking it back to your spotlight almost." And it was a huge fight over that. I remember, because it is a very touchy subject. Many people think that uh, that it's going to always be the excuse for the occupation. That is always going to be the excuse for the actions, for the trauma, for the bad attitudes, for the fear, for the stress that they're going through. So it is still a touchy subject. Still, we could talk about it, but very briefly. It is never much. It is never much. It is very difficult. Yeah.
And then I think I'm reading about Holocaust and Israel and reactions, and that is, of course, impressive. But if you have these very personal stories that Mai can share with you, it's a totally different picture immediately. So that is really, yeah. Thanks for that story. Do we have other questions from the audience? You can just unmute yourself and ask Mai directly.
Mai?
Yes.
Could you tell us a bit about the Arava Institute today?
The what?
About the Arava Institute today.
The Arava Institute today. What do you want to know? Like the activity that is going on now, or the contact that I have now with the institute?
Well, how the institute deals with the changing conflicts.
Oh, okay. I don't know. I am part of some groups in Facebook. They seem to be still working. They have a new batch of students now, because this conflict happened, and somehow people are like, well, this is going to happen again. I remember once that a guy told me, a Palestinian friend told me that it was too peaceful. We were like in April or something like that. See, April, May, and it was like, it is too peaceful. Something's gonna happen soon. And then a month later, there was a war, and it's always like a seasonal thing, and it's terrible. It's terrible to think about it like that, but people is like many people are hopeless there, and they're just, I just want peace. The only thing I want is I want peace, and no one knows how to get it. But I really recommend you. I have some resources here that you should just Google, like self-organization or complex systems, and I think that you will understand or start, yeah, reflecting more in the complexity of forces that influence a system, an organization, and in the wars and the conflicts make a little bit more sense, and not to say, oh, okay, it makes sense, and then that's all, but actually makes you be more focused on how important it is to actually contrast or to weight this efforts. And the Arava Institute sometimes it has done a couple of conferences online. I haven't attended to one. They are going to do one soon on the Jerusalem and Al-Aqsa episode that's going on now. With that Jerusalem, it's an incredible instability now. So they're going to do a statement. So they do this. They send statements, and they how do you say, they say that for example, that this was a genocide, and this war that's wrong, and that's, they do these statements that also it allows you to feel that you can quote unquote trust, and you can keep being in touch with this institution, that there is an awareness of what is going on. But other than that, we don't talk very openly. What we more the flow of information is mostly about ecology, about permaculture, about renewable energy conferences in the Middle East, about leadership opportunities for Arabs or Israelis, things like that. So those are the flow of information, not necessarily about the
Okay.
Wow, that is really something to hear like that. I have a question more towards the what are you doing with it in Chile now? And you mentioned a couple of projects where I think it kind of boils down to knowledge transfer. You've learned about photovoltaics. You made connections with experts. You learned about the biodigester and other tools that you can use. And you're, I mean, when we talked about this in preparation about this talk, maybe it was a little clearer than we had time for right now. That you are really starting to build these bridges between the experts that you met in Israel, who may still be in Israel, others have returned to their home countries, and you're trying to build these bridges to people who need their knowledge in Chile right now. You told us you haven't had much experience yet because you haven't been back to Chile for that long. But can you tell us just a little bit, some indications? How easy or how tough is it for you to convince local communities that you have a connection to offer for them that will be helpful for them?
I think that it was easy for me at the beginning, or in this opportunity, because the project at NIWA, which is the organization that I'm contacting, it's an American NGO. I mean, it is run by, the founder is Mapuche, but American, and an American Mapuche. So he's well, he speaks English, and it was easier to share the documents with him, share information with him. We even had a call while I was in Israel. We had a call to share, to see if he was interested in some of the information, and so that's why it was easy, because also he had the mindset of renewable energy, you know, the of sustainability. He was already in that wagon, so it wasn't much of convincing, but actually of saying like, wow, you're in the same thing, like we have to do something together, we have to share. It was more of that. I know that if we want to continue with, if I want to continue sharing information, I will have to keep translating, because I'm starting to translate some documents on biodigesters, but it's going to be another kind of job. It's going to be of convincing also, and in teaching about cycle, like the ecological cycle, and energy cycle and things like that. So I haven't gotten to that point. I trust in that if this community, if these projects with these communities are successful, they can be an example for other communities, and it's going to be easier to be to keep working with them. So I'm planning on keeping working with to keep working with them, in order for them to be an example, and they're willing to share with other communities as well.
That is great to hear. And Mai, you're talking exactly to the points that I've been trying to make. Recently, I've been teaching in the training program about human-centered design and how to approach projects. And what you're saying here is could be a lesson to everyone. You need collaborators. Look for the natural collaborators, those who you don't need to convince, but who are already in your camp and who already support what you want to do. And then show your success, and then others will follow. I think this is a wonderful recipe to create and scale up your impact that you can have in these projects. Mai, in the name of all the participants, I would like to thank you again for doing this presentation. We have passed the 1 hour that is usually allocated for a Melton Share. I'm sure if you have additional questions, that Mai will be happy to receive those questions by email or by any other form. You can contact her. And I'm also sure that you mentioned the problem of translation, for example. There might also be some opportunities for you to support Mai on these new endeavors to bring knowledge from Arava and from environmental research to local communities in Chile.
Yeah.
So thank you very much.
Yeah, it will be wonderful.
Thank you so much, May.
Yeah, thank you.
Good to hear from you again.
And final word, in 3 weeks, we're already going to have the next Melton Share. If you liked this one with Mai, please tell all your fellow friends and maybe also friends outside the Melton Foundation about this Melton Share. And once we announce the next one, which will be about the student protests in Mexico, actually, if you can think of anyone who is interested in these topics, tell them about it and encourage them to join us. Melton Shares are open forums. It is not limited to Melton Fellows. If you have other friends who want to join, tell them, and we're going to welcome them here in this forum.
That's good to know.
All right.